Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Thank you guys for joining me today. I just got back from my trip from Super Bowl week there in New Orleans. We've got a bunch of great content on the channel from this week. We had a discussion with Steelers beat reporter from Steelers Now, Alan Saunders, and then also team captain Miles Killebrew on Radio Row this week. So if you want to check out that content from Radio Row, it's on our channel, so you guys can check that out after today's show. But today, I've got two pieces of bad news for Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and then I have a single dose of good news to share with you guys here from my apartment. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Usually we're in studio. Tomorrow we'll be back in studio with a little bit of quarterback news and rumors. We'll put that out earlier in the day, so make sure you click that subscribe button. And then also tomorrow, Coop and I, we will be going live on the main Chat Sports YouTube channel for our live coverage of Super Bowl 59, live play-by-play, an hour-long pregame show, and then post-game coverage as well. Really do appreciate all of your guys' supports. If you want to check out me and Coop's watch party for Super Bowl 59, you want to hang out with us tomorrow, you guys can go follow. You guys can go subscribe to the main Chat Sports YouTube channel. Okay, now let's get into the news of the day. We'll start with the bad news, and we'll finish with the good piece of news here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. First up, Jerry Dulac reported earlier this week that there is quote-unquote a strong possibility that Najee Harris will be brought back on a new contract for 2025 and beyond. And of course, that would mean that they would likely be paying Najee Harris a higher dollar figure than what they could have had him for if they would have just picked up his fifth-year option last offseason. So the reason why I think that this is bad news, guys, is because Najee Harris, in my opinion, is not a game-changing running back. You know, this is an offense and a run game last year that really prioritized running the football. They were fourth in the league in rushing attempts, but they were like 28th in success rate. They were like 27th or 26th in EPA per rush attempt. It just wasn't a very successful rushing offense last year with Najee Harris as the number one back. And I think the reason for that is because Najee is somebody that I appreciate the way that he runs. He runs hard. He fights for extra yardage. He doesn't go down easy, but he's also doesn't really possess the vision, and he doesn't possess the quick acceleration to be able to knock off 20, 30-yard runs consistently. And what you see from him is a lot of short gains. And, you know, honestly, on first down, a 3-yard gain is still considered an unsuccessful run on first down. And when you pair that with an offensive line that frankly didn't do a great job in run blocking last year, you know, I think you have a guy, Najee Harris, that's a good running back, you know, a very good number 2 running back. But in terms of him being a number 1 back in the National Football League, I'm not sure if he's a top 15, top 20 level guy, let alone the top 10, top 5 elite caliber rusher that I think the Pittsburgh Steelers need to have if they want to have success and they want to really make this like the identity of this offense the way that Mike Tomlin wants it to be. Also, you know, I think this also would be a terrible look for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they end up paying Najee Harris $8.5, $9, even more than that $1 million per season to be this team's lead back when they could have had him for $6.7 million if they would have just picked up his option last year. So I just think that it would be a terrible look for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It would be a real example of poor cap management, in my opinion, if they bring back Najee Harris. And then you also have the reality of this year being one of the best running back classes we have ever seen in the NFL draft. I mean, you can get a really good running back in like the 4th round if you really want, and you can get a really high-end prospect in like round 2, round 3 if you are the black and gold. So it's cheaper to go out and get a rookie this year to be your number 1 running back. It's honestly, it's probably going to be more explosive. I think that there's many players that are more talented than Najee Harris at this point in their careers, and then younger as well. You know, Najee's not getting any younger at this point, and as we know, the shelf life on running backs is not fantastic. So when you take into account the whole situation here, I think it would be a massive, massive mistake for the Pittsburgh Steelers to bring back Najee Harris on like an $8, $9, $10 million per season contract when you could get somebody younger, cheaper, and better in the NFL draft this year. I think that the correct plan here, guys, is I think what the Steelers should do is they should bring back Jaylen Warren. He's a restricted free agent this year. Send him a qualifying offer, which would be around $5 million. I don't think any other team in the league is necessarily going to go higher than that, or at least not much higher than that. So I think the Steelers can retain him, and then you bring in somebody else in the draft this year to pair with him, and I think that would be the best way forward for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And personally, I would let Najee Harris walk and let him sign for 10, 11, whatever $million per season with another football team, because I just don't know if he is a game changer. And in terms of the possibility of the Steelers doing this, I would say, take any report from Jerry Dulac with a grain of salt. All right, remember, Jerry said last year, a week before the Diontae Johnson trade, that there was a 100% chance that Diontae would be on the team this last season. And of course, then he gets traded for close to nothing to the Carolina Panthers. I know they got Dante Jackson, but let's face it, the Carolina Panthers were probably going to cut him anyways. So it was pretty obvious that the Steelers really wanted Diontae Johnson out of the building, and Dulac's reporting said that they really, really wanted him, even to the tune of a 100% chance that he would be on the team in 2024. So when it comes to Dulac saying that there's a quote-unquote strong possibility that the Steelers are going to be bringing back Najee Harris, I just don't know how true that is, because I don't know if I trust the word of Jerry Dulac and his reporting at this point in time. Like I said, guys, I think the right decision is for the Steelers to let Najee go, and personally, in my opinion, I think if they bring him back, that will be a massive mistake. Now, another piece of bad news in my opinion here, guys, is that the Steelers are being tabbed for the Dublin game for the National Football League in 2025. So the Steelers will have a home game in Week 4. The opponent is still unknown, but the Pittsburgh Steelers will be playing in Dublin in Week 4 of the 2025 season. Now, you might be saying, Jack, why is that bad news? And, there are good elements of it. You get to play, and obviously there's a huge Steelers fan base in Ireland. The Steelers have really done a lot of work to build up their fan base in Ireland over the last several decades, and they really do have a strong foothold in that country. So I do think that, getting that opportunity for all those Irish Steelers fans is going to be really, really cool, and it's going to be cool to play in that country, and, all the fanfare around the game itself. The reason why that it's bad news is because it's in Week 4, and usually teams get their bye week right after playing internationally. So that means the Steelers will have an extremely early Week 5 bye, or most likely an extremely early Week 5 bye week, which means that they will finish their 2025 season with 13 straight regular season games with no breaks, heading into a potential playoff run. So obviously, there's certain negative elements to that, right? You're playing a lot of football games before you have to end up playing in the postseason. You don't get much break before that potential playoff push. Now, I will say you can spin this in a positive direction as well. The Eagles also had a Week 5 bye this year, and they were actually able to make some adjustments early in the season, and after that bye, I believe they only lost one game, including in the playoffs, and that was a game where Jalen Hurts had to leave the game early with a concussion versus the Commanders, another playoff team that ended up making the NFC Championship game, and they still nearly won that game with Kenny Pickett in there as their starting quarterback for most of that football game. So the Eagles are obviously a really good team. They're playing tomorrow for a reason in the Super Bowl, and they may win and beat arguably the greatest quarterback to ever play the game in Patrick Mahomes for a reason. They're a great team, and the reason why they're such a great team is they were able to kind of reset early in the season, kind of establish the changes that they wanted to make in that early bye in Week 5, and then move forward with the opportunity to really be better, and they were better for that. So the Steelers will have an opportunity in Week 5, most likely next year, with a bye week after the Dublin game, to kind of make an early season reset. But obviously playing 13 games in a row down the stretch and hoping that you're going to be fresh and ready to go for the postseason is a dubious proposition as well. So I would say that playing in Ireland in Week 4 is a little bit of a disadvantage for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the grand scheme of things of their 2025 campaign. Now, before I say goodbye for the day, guys, I do want to get to a little bit of good news here, which is that Gerald Alexander, the former former assistant defensive backs coach under Grady Brown, has now been hired as the new full-time defensive backs coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, replacing his old boss in Grady Brown in that room. And I think it's an excellent move. I think that Gerald is somebody with a really, really good track record. He kind of has connections to the Brian Flores tree. He coached under Coach Flo in Miami, and then when Flo came here in 2022, Gerald followed him here as the assistant defensive backs coach. So I think that he is somebody that a lot of people in the National Football League respect. There was a reason why the Raiders poached him to be their safeties coach last season, and he's kind of seen as somebody that's an up-and-coming coach in the defensive space. So for a guy like Mike Tomlin, who really doesn't have much of a coaching tree, Gerald Alexander, bringing him in, I think it is an upgrade at the defensive backs coach position, and it's somebody that a lot of people around the National Football League do believe in. So I do think that this is a good move. I do think that he's going to do a good job helping guys like Joey Porter Jr., helping potentially a new draft pick that they bring in this year to either play the slot or outside, a younger nickel corner in Beanie Bishop Jr. I think that getting a guy in here with experience with the guys, players know him, all this different stuff. I think that Gerald is going to be a slam dunk hire for the Pittsburgh Steelers at that position. And honestly, the defensive backs last year, they had a really tough time communicating. And I think that, partly falls on Mike Tomlin, that partly falls on defensive coordinator Tara Lawson, and then it also falls on Grady Brown, who was the defensive backs coach last year and in the last several seasons. So, with those communication issues, somebody's head kind of had the role here, and unfortunately for Grady, it was his. And, I think bringing in a guy that the players know who, what he's all about, in Gerald Alexander here, it's a familiar face, and also somebody that I think is actually an upgrade over Grady. Hopefully those communication issues can get ironed out here in 2025. Hopefully Joey Porter Jr. can take a big step forward and really establish himself as a true lockdown number one guy. I still really believe he can be that caliber of player. Hopefully they can get some sort of free agent or draft pick to put on the other side of him. That can be really good. Hopefully with Gerald back in the seat here, hopefully Minka can have a resurgent season in 2025. And of course, Deshaun Elliott, who had a great 2024 season, we hope that he can continue to play as well as he did. So that's kind of what I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for making it to the end of today's show. Tomorrow we'll have extensive Steelers quarterback rumors. We'll talk about Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and others, kind of letting you guys know the latest surrounding the quarterback position here with the black and gold. But make sure you guys click that subscribe button here on Steelers Talk for extensive Steelers coverage. We're going to have that video for you guys tomorrow morning, and then also later in the day, Super Bowl Sunday, Coop and I will be going live on the main Chat Sports YouTube channel for our live coverage of Super Bowl 59. Last year we had about, I think, 1.2 million tune into our stream. It was absolutely fantastic. Hopefully this year it can be even better. So if you want to help us out, come party it up with us for our last live watch party of the season. You guys can find us on the main Chat Sports YouTube channel. So thank you guys so much for all of your support. And until tomorrow, guys, here we go, Steelers.